Hello and welcome everybody. This is Tacco Movie Talks. We are back. This is week and episode 21. And it's quite the journey that we've been on. And we're going to be covering a director for the very first time on the channel, and that is director Orson Welles. And he is in the company of two other absolute greats as far as I'm concerned. Two directors that I really, really respect and really enjoy consuming their works. And that's Akira Kurosawa and Stanley Kubrick. But keeping things in, order of how they occurred, we're going to be covering Orson Welles first. But before we get to that, just want to thank you guys for checking this video out, for liking this video, and for subscribing to the channel. We are growing closer and closer to 100 subscribers, and that's pretty freaking awesome if you ask me. And things have been so very busy as of lately, but we're going to be picking up the pace as far as these episodes go. Hopefully get, some guests that you have seen recently and some that, has been a little bit since you've seen. So be on the lookout for that, because there's always going to be content coming from this channel. And hopefully you like this in what I am using the working title of the Timeless Director Trifecta. And the movie and this is honestly the first Orson Welles movie that I've watched, and that is The Trial, which for the uninitiated is based on a Franz Kafka novel. And this was actually a book that I had thought about reading for a little bit. Had it on my watch list recently and just decided to pull the trigger on it. Watched it on Tubi. However, it's available on Peacock as well. But the dialogue is really snappy. It is clearly influenced by, the 50s golden age of film. Though, quite honestly, I'm not super duper well versed, but once you've seen something from that time period, you can kind of tell what that style is, and this very much fits into that. We have a leading performance by the also lead of Psycho, to mention another great director in Alfred Hitchcock, but the lead, which I believe is Anthony Perkins, is really impressive in this one. He holds everything really well together. The set design and the enormity of the sets for different scenes is just insane. To kind of tie Orson Welles to another director that we're going to be talking about, Kurosawa, he is really great at kind of pulling together these huge set pieces, and it's clear as day that Orson Welles is also very willing and very capable to be able to do these very same things. The intro is really magnificent, and it tells you it's going to do something, and then it does just that. And that, here's a story that is basically supposed to put you in the mind state of a dream or a nightmare, and that is what this film does really, really well. And how it kind of pulls on themes at the time where I think paranoia was very fraught in the 60s. And it's also very relevant today in that, people are always very judgmental, always questioning the actions of others, and we often tend to look at everything in kind of a negative light, for lack of a better term, where every action we can look at and not give the benefit of the doubt and kind of consider people to be guilty of things that aren't even necessarily crimes, which is the very basis of what this film is setting out to communicate. It's a man being put on trial for an offense that is not gone into detail with him, and how society kind of bends at the knee to get out of this process, and you're almost held victim by being accused as opposed to actually being sentenced. It's a really neat look. It's probably really timely when this came out. Just because of how communism had scared everyone and made you kind of look at your neighbor in a different light and be very judgmental of what was going on around you, as to if you found any clues that there was communism afoot, that you should, pretty much try to persecute that. But I think we see it now where everyone is very much looking at their neighbor and looking for things to kind of disagree with them, or especially if they disagree with them, then they're trying to kind of examine their life and find any faults. Now, one thing that I will say, and if other people, if there is something on I watched this on Tubi, but I also started it on Peacock, and if I'm not mistaken, the quality looked like on both that this film would be, should be rather, first in line for a restoration, because moving into the next couple movies that we are going to cover, both are really close, if not the same year as the next one's going to be, but the final one is 64. They look, this film kind of pales in comparison when you look at the actual picture quality. And that has nothing to do with black and white. Akira Kurosawa's film is in black and white as well, but literally the resolution of it just doesn't look nearly as clear as, the film that Kurosawa has. So it looks like, if they were to restore footage, this should be it. Not sure if there's a huge demand for that. I do think this is a somewhat cult classic, just because of the crossover of Orson Welles and Kafka. So from that standpoint, I feel like there would be some demand, certainly. But the footage that I saw in, maybe Tubi isn't the best place, but Peacock, I think it was also looking pretty similar, and I could be wrong. If you watched it on Peacock or you've seen it where it is really crystal clear, let me know down in the comments below, because it could have just been a Tubi issue, and my memory has been not so great the last few weeks just because how much has been on my mind. But if I am incorrect, let me know down below. And also your thoughts on this film, because my thoughts were that this was a good film, touches on a lot of good themes, very relevant still today. The set design was ultimately really, just super impressive. And Anthony Perkins as the lead was really impressive as well. I gave it 7 out of 10 or a 3.5 out of 5. Very good. And I think, maybe on a rewatch it would bump up a little bit as well, but ultimately a very good film. One that I would recommend, and I know from what I've heard from others that this isn't your typical Orson Welles film, but this definitely shows talent, without a doubt. And I know Citizen Kane and there's another one. I think it's like Chimes at Midnight. I know I'm butchering that title, but those are some films that I'm definitely looking forward to watching in the future. So he's on my short list, so to speak, and I will be watching him. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Orson Welles' style truly is. Moving on, we have Sanjuro by Akira Kurosawa, 1962. This is a film that I found myself smiling through pretty much the entirety of it. Toshiro Mifune is just one of, if not the best actor, bar none. I would lean towards one of, but if someone argued he is the best movie star, you'd be hard pressed to name some better. And he's certainly my favorite Kurosawa kind of mainstay, one of his acting troupe standouts. And anytime he's in the lead role or even, one of the supporting cast, I am really excited to watch. And this is the sequel to Yojimba, and I can't gush enough. It definitely has like this 50s kind of style, and it really just bathes in this kind of tone and mood that is like it's kind of wholesome and feel good in a way, despite the stakes being relatively high for this. But it's a western where you kind of have a lovable character who leads this band of young up and coming, I don't know if you would call them samurai, but people who want to be do-gooders, for lack of a better term, and they are very non-believing of our main character at the beginning, but come to kind of grow from their time with Sanjuro, as he goes by in this film. And the main villain also played the gun wielding baddie in Yojimba. He was great in this one, and the ending to this film I thought was so good, and it has what I will call a you could call it a samurai, but I think it's probably been most popularized by Tarantino. The Tarantino blood spray is what I will coin it at the end, and that was just one of the best ways to end this film. I would just say, look, if you're a Kurosawa fan, if you're a Mifune fan, if you're a Yojimba fan, you have to watch this. If you were to watch any Kurosawa, start with Yojimba, go straight into Sanjuro, or you could start with maybe High and Low. Those three would be just the perfect films to watch, as far as I'm concerned, if you're trying to consume, the filmography of one of the greats, and that is Akira Kurosawa. He has grown on me so much to where he is, without a doubt, one of my favorite filmmakers by far. In fact, I would say he is my favorite filmmakers, and this film ranks top 5 for me, just below Yojimba. Although I think you could argue the only reason I put Yojimba first is just because it is the sequel to this. It was made first. It really kind of laid the groundwork to this character. But with how strong the ending is to this one, you could really argue that this one takes the cake. And the reason I say Kurosawa is my favorite director is because 7 films, an average of 4.64 after 7 films, with the lowest being a 4. And only one film being a 4, and I think it's ripe for a rewatch, and that is Throne of Blood, because I think it might have been scored too lowly on me, because I think if I were to pay closer attention and really watch it with a keen eye, I think I would love it just as much, if not more. So, on that note, it is on to Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Oh, by the way, did not give a rating. This is difficult for me. Yojimba and Sanjuro could easily both be 5 stars. I gave them both 4.5, and I think it's just waiting to rewatch them and see how much I enjoy them on a rewatch. Because I do feel like sometimes I've been too quick to give 5 stars. There's probably a few that I'm going to rewatch. Not anytime really soon, but in the future that might be bumped down. But that's for another time. So I'm a little bit more reticent to give 5 stars, and I think after rewatching, and if I still enjoy them just as much, then this and Yojimba are going to be 5 stars. But for now, Sanjuro is 4.5 stars and 5th ranked on my ranking of Akira Kurosawa, which, if you would like to check out all my lists, it will be in the Letterboxd down below. Now, finally, we are on to Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This is satire at its highest level. It's witty, and it's so smart the way it goes about telling its humor. There are some absolutely hilarious sequences when the president is talking to the prime minister of the USSR. That is comedy gold. I love that entire sequence. Dr. Strangelove as a character is such a unique character. There's a lot of really unique characters throughout this that are just really well written, really fleshed out, and almost borderline cartoonish, and that plays into the satirical nature of this film so well. And almost along the lines of the trial and how amped up this entire conflict was, this plays on the kind of the threat of it all, and how we were so focused on beating Russia as a nation, as an ideology, that we were both kind of setting ourselves up to kind of trip on our own shoes and make what is now coined as mutually assured destruction a reality, because there is, and I believe this to be based on an actual thing that was, a plan of action that was put in place, where if a code was sent, a bomb would essentially be a nuclear weapon, 200 megaton of uranium would be sent to the nearest kind of place of interest in Russia. And you would have to go through a special code in order to stop the bomb, to avoid, the USSR from sending false messaging, which someone went nuts and they were able to put this plan in action, and then in an attempt to stop it without the help of this person or the code, it ended up breaking the only way to communicate with this basically bomber, and set in place mutually assured destruction, where the entire globe was going to be wiped out because of just us putting into place all of these plans and sub-plans in case X, Y, and Z happened, where it was like we were giving ourselves enough slack and enough rope basically to hang ourselves. It points a finger at the absurdity of what was going on at the time, and it does it in such a witty and thought-provoking way that it comes out brilliantly. And Kubrick, this is maybe, arguably, for me, because I haven't seen a immense amount of Kubrick, but I have seen a pretty good bit. This is maybe my most enjoyable film for Kubrick, and I very much enjoyed it. I gave this film 4.5 stars. I think you can definitely see very similar thought patterns that go on between this film and Full Metal Jacket, and also 2001: A Space Odyssey. You can clearly see the same mind that went into writing this, went into writing Full Metal Jacket in 2001. You kind of look at the premise, where like the overarching sense of doom and how these plans can go awry in 2001, and then that cutting critical eye on the war as a whole between this and Full Metal Jacket. So it kind of tied everything together. I had actually watched this film before, but I wasn't paying nearly enough attention to it, paying full attention to it. This one was tremendous. This film would be my 4th ranked film for Kubrick as a whole. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I only have 2001, A Clockwork Orange, and The Shining above this film as far as what I've seen in the 6 films for Kubrick. And again, you can look at my list on the Letterboxd, which is down below, and also a few other directors that I have ranked. And I guess kind of to go into where I have Kubrick, I actually have him as my 5th ranked director. So you can check out my Letterboxd, subscribe to the channel because there's going to be a ton of content coming out like this, and let me know your thoughts on these movies, as well as some other movies perhaps by these directors I should watch and other great directors I should watch, because I am always on the lookout for new exciting cinematic material. I appreciate y'all for checking this video out. Be sure to share it with a friend, anyone who likes movies, or comment your thoughts as well. Y'all have been great, and I will catch you on the flippity floop. Bye, y'all.